ready.
Welcome to another episode of Buff in the Rough. Today we're going to talk to Nicole Myrkle about her experiences in the hound hauling business. Help me welcome Nicole Myrkle to the program. Well, hey Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mr. Sam. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us today. I think everybody's going to find you very interesting.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on today. It's an honor.
Well, Nicole, for those that may not know you, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself? And that can be related to today's topic, which we're going to talk about hound hauling and your business, the Canine Transporter. So it can be that, or it can just be, your personal stuff too, what you do outside of work.
Okay, great. So I am a licensed veterinary technician of 12 years. I managed a couple of vet hospitals, and I taught at the college I graduated from before I started my company 6 years ago. I originally started as just the dog transporter, and then turned it into the Canine Transporter LLC this last March. So I've been doing it for quite some time now. As far as me outside of work, I love animals. I coon hunt. I used to rabbit hunt and squirrel hunt too, but mostly just coon hunt. And then, I stay pretty busy with transporting now. I'm very, very blessed. And then I also have a son who's almost 17 now. So I get to spend time with him when I am home. That's always nice.
Well, it sounds like you've got a lot to keep you busy.
I do, yes, I do. And the other thing, too, is I don't just transport, but sometimes I raise litters for people. So I may have a female here that has a litter of puppies, just because of my background in animal medicine, or do a lot of AIing and that kind of stuff, too.
Oh, cool. Well, I definitely want to talk about that, too. Well, let me ask you kind of in the beginning. So I understand that you went to school to become a vet tech and have been one for a number of years and have a lot of experience even in the ER, and I want to ask you about that too. But what does it take? I mean, what do you study when you go to school? What does that look like? Is it like biology, anatomy, chemistry? What does that look like?
It is some of that. It's typically a 2-year program. And now they have it set up where you can either go to college or you can take an online college course, basically. And it's not just one class, it's a 2-year program through Penn Foster if you're doing it online. I taught at Ogeechee Technical College down in Statesboro, Georgia for a number of semesters. Basically, you're going to learn surgical assistant, you're going to learn radiograph, you're going to learn how to draw blood, how to put IV catheters in, you have to learn all the medications, you have to learn the math for the medications so you can properly dose an animal. It's really everything. It's basically all the things that we do in human medicine that is individualized, like, you have an anesthesiologist and then you have a radiologist. We have to learn all of it. And then you're learning it for multiple species, cats, dogs, horses, pigs, sheep, exotic animals, reptiles, birds, all of that. So it's very intense for a 2-year program. You are definitely learning anatomy and some biology. Chemistry is definitely, unfortunately, on there. That was one of the classes I don't even know how I passed it, to be honest. I passed it with a good grade, but I just felt like I was taking a class in French the whole time. So it wasn't my favorite. I love emergency medicine, and I love surgical assisting and things like that. It just keeps you on your toes. So that's basically what you're looking at as far as being a licensed tech. And then once you pass all the classes, you go and do usually like an internship for so many months. And if you pass your internship, then you can sit for the boards. And that's I can't remember because I took it so long ago, but I want to say it was like 4 hours or 6 hour test. And then once you pass it, you have your license, and then you just go for continuing education classes every 2 years, a certain number of hours, to keep your license up, basically.
Well, Nicole,
so even though I don't really practice anymore, all the time, I still keep my license up, and I still go to the continuing ed classes. And really, I practiced all the way up until this past January. My business just got, so busy that I couldn't really do both.
Well, that's a good busy, right?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, I'm very blessed. I am.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nicole, here's a fun fact. So I'm a chemistry major, of all things. I don't know how you end up in the hound world and chemistry. It's crazy. But this is a true story, kind of a little sidebar. I've seen grown men cry at making a B in chemistry on one of those tests. I was in Organic 2, and just D was for diploma for me. If I made a D, I was just happy. I just wanted to graduate. But these guys, they were so competitive, and I saw a grown man just cry one day, and it was a guy I studied with some, and I was thrilled because I'd made a D, and I was like, buddy, what's wrong? I'd kill to have a B, and he said, I'll never get into vet school if I have B's. You have to have straight A's, and so he was just torn plumb out of his frame. But it's really tough. Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is really competitive. So, I remember getting my papers back, and they would have red marker all over them. It looked like she just slaughtered somebody on my paper. But I would still pass it. I don't know.
It's a different word. It's a different language. It has its own little language of sorts.
It is.
But one of the things that I was thinking that you had experience with was working in an ER. Is that true? Did I read that somewhere?
So I do have a lot of ER hours. Now, I didn't work in an ER facility, like an only ER facility, but the first animal hospital that I worked at for 6 years and did, I was a manager also. We did on-call emergency. And so we would see a wide variety of emergencies, basically. And sometimes the way it would work is the technician, like myself, we would screen the phone calls, because you get a lot of nonsense calls that aren't emergencies, but the owners are freaking out. And sometimes, we would see those emergencies because it made the owner feel better, even though, I remember seeing some because a puppy had worms coming out.
Oh, my goodness.
And that can wait till the next day. It just needs some dewormer. A lot of people realize that it's not an emergency. But, when you're dealing with pets, it's a lot different than hounds sometimes. And so we would go in for stuff like that too. But we would also see, stuff that was hit by a car, and we would have to get it stabilized and transferred out. All different kinds of stuff that would come in after hours. So I got a lot of experience doing the ER medicine in that manner, because there wasn't very many technicians that were licensed that wanted to come in after hours after they had already worked a full day.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit about that, because I think it's important for folks that are listening. So what's like some of the craziest stuff that you saw, like on the ER side? Like, is there anything any just crazy? And it doesn't have to be hound related necessarily, but what's something crazy that you saw?
Well, one of my favorite cases that I got to work on was actually a little kitten. It was like a little Persian or something, and it had really bad anemia. It came in, it was couldn't stand up. It was basically almost dead. It needed a really bad, blood transfusion because it was so anemic. Like, the gums were completely white, and it was just me and the doctor at the time, and basically while she was in there with the client, I had to put a jugular catheter in this cat's neck by myself.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's
That's
one
intense.
of those moments where you're like, I wonder if I can do this. I hope I can do this. And you get it in, you're like, yes, So anyway, we wound up having to sedate a couple of our house cats and blood type them to make sure, they were a match for the kitten. And we finally got one that was. And then I stayed for several hours doing a blood transfusion. And when I got back to work that morning, the little kitten was still alive, and I was like, yay! I felt so good for him,
That's a trip.
There's so many different things that we've seen in emergency medicine. That's just one of those that really stuck out for me, because I didn't know if that kitten was going to make it or not, and certainly wasn't going to without a blood transfusion.
Mm-hmm. Well, that actually was my next question was, did you ever see something come in that you were like, no way is this thing going to survive? No way is it going to live? And then it did.
Oh, yeah. We saw one. There was this beagle. The owners had gone away for the weekend or something. No, it wasn't a beagle. I'm sorry. It was a Westie.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it had escaped while the owners were gone, and it had broke into their shed that had like a wood pile or something. That had a wood pile or something on the inside, and it fell through the wood pile, and it got stuck in there for like 3 days or something like that until the people came back and found it. And he was so dehydrated, and I can't remember. There was something else that was wrong. I think maybe he had hurt his head, and I think he had like some brain swelling or something. We had to give him mannitol IV, which was not something we usually, like, it's not a regular thing that you have to do, But we got him stabilized and sent him off to the emergency vet in Savannah. And then a couple days later, we heard back that he survived. And then he came back in maybe a month later for a checkup or something. He was doing great, but when he came in, he looked like he was not going to make it for sure, and but he pulled through.
It's amazing how strong these little guys can be, and having that will to live.
Resilient.
Yeah. So so that gives us a little background on you and what you learned in school and experience with ER. And now, did you mention also that you managed as well at like a vet hospital, or?
I did. I managed 2 different hospitals. That first one I managed, the first practice I worked at for 6 years, I was a floor manager. So I did a lot of managing and working, like a working manager, and I was basically the go-between between the kennel assistants and the techs and the doctors, just to help with like communication and making sure workflow went better. We also started a computer system that allowed us to go chartless or paperless or paperlight, I guess, really. And I played a big part in that, also because I had worked previously at an urgent care for people, and I was part of that process of training and starting them on chartless. And so once I got into the vet med side of it, they wanted to use me for that too. So it was me and another girl that basically created our practice's software that we use for chartless.
Well, that's just fascinating to me to hear your background, what you went to school for. You come out, you're in the middle of your career. So how in the world do you end up starting a transportation business? I mean, how do you get from ER and management to this?
I'll be honest with you. I just felt like it was an area that I could improve for clients. I felt like some of my closer friends that had had animals transported weren't showing up in with the best care, and I just felt like I could raise the bar, so to speak.
So how does that start? Do you start doing it part-time in addition to your other job, or did you just go out on a limb and say, I'm going to try this, and I'm not looking back?
So basically I just was like, I don't know if I can really make this work or not. But I'm definitely going to give it a shot. And we went on a vacation. Me and my dad and my son went up to Michigan to visit some family. And a friend of mine was like, this is a great time for you to try transporting, you know? And I thought, man, that is a great time. So, I just kind of posted on Facebook, hey, I'm going in this direction. If anybody needs a dog transported, I'll have 4 available kennels, I think. I can't remember. I think I had maybe 1 or 2 to haul up on the way from Georgia up to Michigan. But on the way back, I had 5. Wow. And I was like, wow, I paid for my whole vacation. And that was December of 2017, maybe. My dad used to be a truck driver, so we sat down at the table and we were looking at the routes, and I was like, I think this is how we're going to run it, on the way back down. And he was like, well, let me check, make sure you got the fastest way and all that. And he's like, yeah, you got it lined out good. And I just remember him being like, wow, I'm just so proud of you, because I'm the only girl, and I have 2 brothers and stuff. But anyway, he was just like, yeah, I think that'll work out good. So it did, and that was the first month, and then I just have been every single month since. And that was 6 years ago.
That's a fascinating story, and I love to hear about people that work hard, become successful, especially doing something that you really enjoy doing. So let's fast forward through the last, 6 years, 7 years now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what does it look like today? What's different today than it used to be? Like I'm pretty sure you're USDA licensed and insured. Maybe not on that first trip when you were just trying things out, but what does that look like? How do you get that? What does that mean to be licensed and insured?
To be licensed and insured. So insurance comes in a lot of different ways. You want to have limited liability for your business, just like any other business. And then I always have extra car insurance, whether it's a rental or my regular insurance. But then I also have, on top of both of those, I have pet insurance that covers the passengers for certain things while they're riding with me. It doesn't cover like pre-existing conditions and certain things, but like if I were to make a mistake, and got somebody's animal hurt, it would just cover, it would cover them for like doctor visits and, things like that. So it does help. And I believe part of the policy does cover like reimbursement for the animal, like if it were to expire or something. Okay. Heaven forbid that ever happens. But, accidents are accidents, and things happen that you can plan. And definitely I have learned a lot in the last 6 years as far as, taking my time and making sure I do certain things so that I don't have anything, basically preventing any kind of issue that could happen. Sure.
Well, how do you get to be USDA licensed?
So USDA license is actually not as hard as what some people believe it to be. You can contact them. They have a 1-800 number. I like to do email or texting because it's just easy for me to keep up with. And they'll email the forms over to you, like the booklet or whatever, and you fill out your information and send it back. They do like on-site inspections where they just kind of like pop by to inspect your equipment, your vehicle, or your kennels. I rent most of the time, so all the vehicles that I use are newer. And then I do have a Sprinter van, which I'll be selling. I'll buy a different one, probably a Ford or whatever. But if that were here, they would inspect that. It's not at the shop, but it's not difficult as far as the actual getting the license goes. They do have a list of guidelines that you should follow and read and make sure that you're keeping up with the animals, the temperament, how good they're doing when you let them out to go to the bathroom, feeding, watering, all that kind of stuff. They make it very easy for people as far as keeping up with that. They have forms that you can write in, all of that stuff. So you don't even have to make your own if you don't want to. In other words, you can order them, they'll mail them to you.
So the vehicles you use, whether it's your own van or you rent a vehicle, are they vans or are they cars? I mean, because I'm trying to get a visual of what it looks like, because I kind of have this idea that there's some kind of kennels inside or crates or something for each hound. What does that look like? How's that work?
Okay, so what that looks like is, like when I'm hauling in a Sprinter van or a cargo van, I prefer the passenger vans because it gives the AC all the way to the back on those on those bigger vans, and you can stack up the kennels, tie them down, or ratchet strap them down. Some people have them built into their van. It just really depends on if you're renting or if you own it. The way I had my old Sprinter van set up is I had 3 rows of kennels on the driver's side, and it was an old like FedEx, not old, but it had been a FedEx delivery vehicle, and so it already had metal shelves in there, which made it great for stacking the kennels and being able to drill holes and tie them down and all of that kind of stuff so they couldn't move around. And then we also installed a sink in there, which was one of my favorite things because I could wash puppies in it, and I was contained inside my van. So I love making new friends, but when I'm on the road, I don't make a lot of new friends in places that I don't have business at. So what I mean by that is, like, if I'm delivering for you, then I'm going to have a lot of conversation with you. But when I'm at a gas station, just getting my animals taken care of, you have to be very vigilant about your surroundings and stuff like that. And so that was one thing I liked about the bigger van, is that I'm contained inside. I can wash my puppies up before I drop them off, because that's a big thing that I like to do. Make sure that they're dry, clean, they smell really good before I drop them off. So that was one thing I really liked about the bigger van. And then also the sleeping arrangements, of course, are a lot better in there too. I could stretch out. When I first started, I had like a hammock that I tied to the ceiling, and that worked out really well for a long time. And then in this other van that I have now, I had like a mat, basically a sleeping mattress kind of folded up, which was really nice. So, but right now I haul in a minivan. And so what that looks like for me is I sleep in the front seat. I sleep across the front seats, basically. It's not the most comfortable or ideal sleeping arrangements for myself, but I do not want to get hotel rooms and leave a bunch of dogs in a van unsupervised. I don't like it.
Right.
People are very nosy nowadays. If you have some puppies that are screaming, they're going to call, animal control or something. In the summertime, it's just not a good idea, because even on newer vans, the AC can quit working. And if you're not in there, you don't know that. You don't know. And I've heard so many horror stories that it's just something that I don't want to chance,
Nicole, I admire you for a lot of reasons. One is I'm at the age now where I can just sleep in my own bed and wake up and have slept wrong and my neck's jacked up for like a month or something. I can't imagine sleeping in the front of a van across the seats. That's dedication. That's dedication. But I think people would really like that. I know I would, to know that you're right there in the middle of the dogs in case they ever needed anything. But one of the things you mentioned that I think is really neat is that these vans are air conditioned and probably heated too, I would assume.
Right, that's right.
So that's really nice. So when you're traveling, how do you feed? How do you water them? Because these dogs, I guess they all have different needs. The adults may be a little different from the puppies, and how often they need attention and to be walked. How does that work?
So I do have a couple of different ways that I handle them. Mainly for my puppies, especially the younger puppies, they usually do so much better if they're not fed the day that they're picked up. And I know that some people are worried because they think, the dog hauler's not going to feed my puppy during this trip, so I better make sure he gets plenty of food. But he's riding with me. He's definitely going to get fed. I can't speak for everybody else, but I can speak for myself. If you feed the puppy before I pick it up, he's going to throw up. And he'll throw up all the food. And then it kind of starts a cycle of nausea and vomiting for that puppy. That's harder to break than if he had just gone to ride on an empty stomach. Right. He might drool a little or have a little bit of vomit, but it's not major, And so basically the way it works is, for puppies, at night when I stop to sleep, I will clean up their kennels and I'll feed them. And I always add water into their food. So I make sure that they're getting enough water, because sometimes puppies, they want to eat but they don't want to drink, or they want to drink but they don't want to eat. So I always add food or water in with their food, and then they have separate water at night. So it gives them time to eat and digest their food before I get up in the morning and get back on the road. That is one benefit to having a single driver, because some companies do team driving, and the animals never really get a good break except for, when you're stopping to get gas or stopping to shower or something, and that's really the only break they have from moving. So it's helpful with the with the puppies. The older puppies that are like 16 weeks old, 4 months to 6-8 months, right in that time frame when they might be potty trained, but they're not, maybe, or they might not be leash broke, but they've had all their vaccines. Those, I walk them several times a day, about 5 times a day. a lot of them, they don't want to sit in a nasty mess,
No.
and you'll hear somebody that'll start crying, and you got a couple minutes to get pulled over and, get them out. And because sometimes they don't go when you let them out. Like, you could be standing out there for 30 minutes and, they're so involved in the different scenery or whatever else is going on that they don't go to the bathroom, and then you load them up and they're like, oh, I forgot I have to go to the bathroom. And they're screaming while you're driving down the interstate.
Of course. So you've been
those I try to let up more often.
You've been doing this for a while. You've delivered over 4,500, 5,000, something like that.
Yeah, I'm probably close to 5,000 or a little over that at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like a lot to me. I have no idea, but that sounds like a lot of deliveries, a lot of critters being delivered all over the country. And so,
yes, sir. How
does it work? I mean, so each dog has its own kennel. Do you ever share? Everybody's got their own space.
Everybody has their own space unless it's puppies that are coming from the same litter.
Okay.
So I don't ever mix puppies because you can have paperwork all day long that says your puppy is healthy and been vaccinated, and I'm sure it was, but you don't know where that puppy was or where the breeder was or what kind of stuff they had in their yard, and then you mix it in with somebody else's puppy and you can get them sick. So I don't mix puppies at all. If they come from the same litter, I like to ride them together because it is less stressful for them to have their litter mate with them. But other than that, that's it. Everybody else has a separate kennel. So for me, I can haul 4 adult male coonhounds and 6 adult female coonhounds at one time, and then also I can fit up to about 7 small puppies. Like, when I say small, I mean like 8 weeks old, 10 weeks old at one time in the minivan. Beagles, depending, because I've seen them range all different sizes. You have like the foxhound beagles that are mixed, and then you have the like real short but the real fat beagles that they have to go in a medium kennel anyway because they're so wide. They're not going to fit in a smaller kennel. And then you have the beagles that are real petite, and so it just depends on what size they are. I can haul about the same, but at any time I can have up to 17 on my van, and sometimes more if I have little puppies that are all riding together.
Well, Nicole, so you're based in Georgia.
That's correct.
Is that correct? So how does it work? Do you have like a regular route? Do you have certain places you go, certain regions, or are there parts of the country you don't go? Is there anything, how does that work? Do you have a schedule that you publish, or?
So I do. I post on Facebook. Facebook is a huge part of my business as far as advertising and finding new clients, or even just getting my schedule out there for my existing clients. I go every month. I do try to go about the beginning of the month every month, because sometimes that doesn't work out depending on, what larger hunts are that we're going to. So sometimes I have to leave a little bit later in the month. But basically, I cover from Georgia, Florida, all the way up the East Coast, Pennsylvania. I do go into New Jersey and New York, but the pricing is a little bit different for those areas. And then I cut across the top states. I go into Michigan, but only into the lower peninsula. I do cover Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then I will go as far as like Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, sometimes the east side of New Mexico. But that's really it. I don't cover generally. I have been to Colorado before because a guy bought his boy a Christmas puppy, and so I did haul that one year, and it was beautiful out there. But I just don't have enough business to make it worth driving that far west. And so, the cost for somebody to hire me to go that way, it's just a lot more. And there are other transporters that do go that are probably more reasonable, because they have a bigger clientele over that way.
Sure.
I do have somebody that I refer to that goes to California. So I can cover California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico as well. But I don't do that personally.
So So I decide that I want to buy a puppy from Michigan, the lower part, and I figure out when you're going to be making that trip. I see you on Facebook. I contact you. You pick it up and you bring it down here. So how do you communicate? Do you give updates? Do you hey, when you get there, you snap a picture? Because everything's easier today. There's so many ways to communicate. But for the worrywarts out there, the ones that are worried about that little puppy making it across the country, or maybe they paid 15, 20 grand for that coonhound, and they want to make sure he gets here in one piece. How does that work? Communication.
So I do a lot of texting. I prefer texting because I do talk to a lot of different people, and it's easier for me to keep up with our conversation as far as, where your pup is, which one it is, and where it's going, and that kind of thing. I always say no news is good news for me. I do updating as far as when I'm going to arrive and if I have any issues. Like if I have a flat tire or if your puppy is very sick and needs vet attention instead of just, regular meds for nausea or whatever, then you'll be hearing from me. But I always tell people, you are more than welcome to message me and ask for an update anytime. And as soon as it's safe for me to answer, I will. And that way, and I just say, try not to message me between 11 p.m. and 6 in the morning because at some point in that time frame, I'll be sleeping. Not the whole time, but somewhere in that time frame, I will be sleeping. But that's how it works for me. I can send picture updates if they ask. If they ask for a video update, I'll send it when I get stopped again and let their dog back out to go to the bathroom. Some people want a picture when I get it picked up to make sure it's the right one. Everybody's a little different, so I accommodate most any of that kind of stuff. I do offer GPS tracking if it's something they absolutely want. It's not something I'm really big on, just because most people don't understand what a route looks like and why, you're zigzagging through a couple different states to get animals picked up and dropped off, and that kind of thing. They only have to worry about the one that they have. And I have to worry about all of them that are scheduled. So I do offer it, but it's not something that I just do regularly, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Well, I wanted to ask you a few more things as we wrap up, but I don't expect you to share pricing because, for one, hopefully people will be listening to this for the next 2 or 3 years and going back and referencing this, and I know your pricing will change over time. But what does pricing look like? How's that built? Is it per mile? How does that work?
Well, I think everybody runs that part of their business differently. It just depends on, some people do charge by mile. Some people charge per animal. For me, I charge per animal for most things. And then some pricing is based on location. Like I charge more for Miami, Florida, because it's all the way at the bottom of Florida. And maybe only have one thing going down there. Or New York, I charge more for New York because gas prices are higher, their tolls are outrageous, and it's also the edge of where I'm going to go, and if somebody wants to pay me to go to Connecticut or Massachusetts or somewhere that's even further, then, I have to sit down and figure out how much time is this going to cost me off my route while everybody's riding. So, that's longer that I have the rental for, longer time that I have to take care of these other animals for, plus the gas and, those kind of things too. So it's usually a flat rate for most of the places that I cover. And then if you're getting multiples, I do discount the second and third animal, and then people just have to decide if they feel like it's worth it for them. Most of the time my pricing is worth it by the time you look at how long it's going to take you to drive there and back, the gas, if you're using your own vehicle or if you're renting. Most people have to get a hotel because they're not going to drive past, 8 hours in one setting. And then, your food and stuff like that you would have bought while you're traveling, because people love to eat while they travel.
Sure.
So, it's just, it can rack up a lot faster than just, it's only a 5-hour trip there. Right. Or, 6-hour trip there. And you have to drive back too.
That's right.
And then you have to take the day off of work or, your weekend or whatever. So, it's definitely affordable, but it is also a luxury business. So when the economy isn't doing good and people don't have the extra money, it's, you can definitely feel it in the business side of it versus when the economy's doing great and everybody has plenty of money. And, same with puppy sales,
Sure.
The breeders are going to feel it because the puppies are still going to be there.
This is perhaps the most important question of all, but what kind of coonhound do you have? Or do you
I hunt English.
Okay, all right. Now, do you like the red ones or the blue ones, or does it matter? Or
I actually really like the tricolor.
Okay.
Yeah, I started out with blue ticks, and I just couldn't find one that was what I wanted, and then I got into English and have never looked back.
Wow. Any particular bloodline or?
I really like the loudmouth JR bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Cracker Jack is ranked number 1. I think JR was ranked number 3 for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of offspring off him that are winning big in a lot of hunts, UKC, PKC. And just the litters that I raise off of that bloodline are so much more bold and independent than other breeds that I've had. I think as long as I can always find that bloodline, I'll keep it.
Well, this is a true story. I'm a red bone guy. I love red dogs. But the best dog, and I know people would probably expect me to call out some kind of Walker dog, is the best dog I've ever hunted with. And I have been very fortunate to hunt with everything. I've hunted with about anything you could hunt with. The best young hound I've ever hunted with in my life, and this is when I was, it's been a long time ago. It was a red tick male, an English hound out of Bullard's Captain Cool. I don't know if you ever heard of that hound. He was really Bullard's hit. That's old school now. It's going back a long time, and he was really popular, especially down here in the Carolinas. And that young hound never saw, that I know of, a competition hunt in his life. This pleasure hunter had him. That was the best hound, I think, most complete hound I've ever been with. And he was so loud that it would make your ears ring. It really hurt your ears to go get him off the tree. Just a fantastic young dog. But that's my one English story for the day.
Well, I remember when I first started transporting, I had only been going for a couple months, I think, at this point, and I had hauled, some coonhounds, some beagles, and some curve ice, And I remember I had this puppy on there for Johnny Avilas out of Missouri. And that sucker was so loud when he screamed in the van. I was like, holy cow, what is this dog off of? He was just screaming because he wanted to play, he wanted to be out.
Yeah.
You know how coonhounds are, they're mouthy.
Oh, yeah. And
he was so loud. That was when I first started. I was like, I got to do something because I can't handle this. And I started wearing earplugs. That was the puppy that taught me you better keep earplugs in your van all the time because it was just ungodly loud in there.
Well, Nicole, I'm gonna wrap up with maybe one or two questions, and this first one is, why should people choose you? Out of all the delivery services out there, what really, if you could boil it down to just a few things, why should they have you at least on their list, but preferably at the top of their list of folks to call when they're wanting somebody to deliver a puppy or a dog for them?
Well, that's a great question. I think if I were going to choose me, it would be because, number one, I'm extremely honest. So if I pick up your dog and it doesn't look good, you're going to hear from me about it. If I have any issues with your dog while we're riding, you're going to hear about it. But also because I am very qualified in animal care, probably overqualified. And so I'm going to pay attention to everything that's going on with your pet while it's riding with me. But also, if there is a problem, most of the time I can handle it myself. Mm-hmm. Or I can call one of the veterinarians that I have on my call list, to get help with something if there was an issue. But I feel like, my animal care is going to be number one.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, I think I definitely would hire you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again so much for spending time with us. But for someone who is trying to reach out or wants to find you, you mentioned Facebook. Is that the best way? for folks to
It
contact
is.
you? Okay.
My Facebook ad has my phone number and my cell phone directly on there. I'm not sure if my Facebook profile lists my phone number, but it's always on my post. But Facebook is the easiest way to find me on there. And
what
I
would
do
what
post
would
in a lot of the groups.
what would people search? Do they search your name? Do they search the Canine Transporter? How do they find you there?
They would just search my name, which is Nicole Myrkle, and my last name is kind of unique or whatever, but it's Myrkle is my last name. But I do post a lot in all of the different coonhound groups and beagle groups and stuff like that, so it's usually pretty easy to find my phone number.
Well, very good, Nicole. It's been a pleasure talking to you, learning more about your business, and hearing your story. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us.
Thank you for having me on here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough. And remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com.